Hey everyone, Brian Smith here from Performance Tennis. In today's strategy session, we're going to build a solid baseline structure to our game. And when we're playing baseline points, a lot of times players watch pros and the first thing that they gravitate to is the amount of power these players are hitting with. But it's really not about how hard we're hitting. It's all relative to our level. And all their games are based around a few different aspects that power overshadows a lot of times. And when we're playing baseline points, there's a couple things that we want to try to control or win each and every rally we're in. Number one is we want to win the court position battle. If we can dominate the court position, whether I'm staying up on the baseline or I'm pushing my opponent back, we're going to be able to dictate better how we want to structure our points. Number two is movement. Can I control the movement of the point? Can I move my player around on my terms, or am I getting pushed around the court on their terms? And number three is time. Can I win the time? Am I getting rushed, or am I rushing my opponent into their shots, thus maybe making more errors? So, to win these three things, there's three components that we need to have in our baseline game. And, you could ask, 1,000 different people and you might get 1,000 different variations of how this would work. Now, this is my variation, and the variation that I feel is probably the one that's the easiest to develop for recreation players all the way up through more advanced players. So, number one is depth. If I can control ground strokes by keeping the ball deep in the court, it's not only the safest way to do it, but it definitely wins that battle right there. Now, let's talk about depth. When I'm talking about depth here, I'm not saying you have to hit it a foot from the baseline. That's unrealistic. But we don't want to be making shots in the service boxes either, because that will draw a player up into the court and we end up losing the court position battle. So for depth, in order to keep a player behind the baseline, you ideally 2 to 3 feet behind the service line or deeper is ideal. Now, depending upon how much spin or pace you have on that ball, that line could vary, a foot or so each and every direction. Now, if I can keep this ball consistently back there, this player is then going to be having to be pushed back a little bit, which is then going to affect their shots to our side of the court. So, to win court position battle, we want to do that with depth. Now, the second one is accuracy. Now, this is different than control, and a lot of players get these confused. Is control or consistency? Let's put consistency is different than accuracy in that consistency is just not making a lot of errors. But you really don't have much control as to where the ball's going. You might hit one here, you might hit one back here, next one short. You're not missing, but you're not really doing much as far as controlling the point. So for accuracy, if we can keep the ball to the corners and deep, now we're going to be able to win the movement battle in the rally. If I can control with accuracy the baseline corners and keep the ball deep, not only am I going to win court position, I'm also going to win the movement. And a lot of times that's plenty to win the point. Now, the third one is probably everybody's favorite, and that is power. Now, I was reluctant to put power up there, but it does have its place in the baseline game. Now, if I can add selective power to these two, now I become very dangerous in how I control a baseline point. If I can add not only depth, but accuracy, and then maybe a little power to those corner shots, it's going to be a lot harder for a player to hurt me with it. Now, a lot of times players add power to their game, they fall in love with it, and power starts to overrule accuracy and overrule depth. And when that starts to happen, you start losing your accuracy, you start losing your depth, and what ends up happening is you make a lot more unforced errors. So you might hit a few more winners, but over the course of a match, you'd much rather have these and less power. So to review, if you really want to take your baseline game to the next level, focus on developing depth and accuracy first, then start to sprinkle in power. And if you can start adding those three things to your game, you're going to be able to control the three aspects of each point that we want to try to control when we're playing a baseline point or a match. So win the core position battle, win the movement battle, win the time battle by going and building with depth, accuracy, and power on your ground strokes. I hope this helped you guys today. Don't forget to subscribe below.